Hi, welcome back. Today we are in Longview Estates on Tucson's east side. We're in a great mid-century ranch property, and it was built by P.A.T. Homes in the early 1960s. They were a builder that completed about 6,000 homes in the Tucson area after the post-World War II building boom. We thought we'd talk a little bit about the fascinating history of this property, and at the end of the video, we're going to give you a tour of this home, which is currently for sale, and there's a link for the listing in the property description below.
When I started researching P.A.T. homes, I was actually surprised to not really find much information online about the builder, because as a kid, I had always heard my grandma talking about P.A.T. homes. So I had to go down quite a few rabbit holes, but I think I found some really interesting history. So I hope you stay tuned for that.
I also remember you telling me about some pretty interesting ad campaigns about this house.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that.
So Kim, what's special about Tucson's east side and in particular Longview Estates?
Well, the east side is full of cool mid-century homes, and it's actually less expensive than a lot of other areas of town, and sometimes it gets a little overlooked.
Where's it located?
Longview Estates is located about a half-mile south of Broadway Boulevard, between Kenyon and 22nd Street, and between Kolb Road and Prudence Road.
And that's only about 20 to 30 minutes away from the U of A and downtown, correct?
Right, so it's not a super long commute to get to U of A or downtown, depending on the time of day. And it is also convenient to a lot of services. There's, a couple of grocery stores nearby, like Fry's and Sprouts are nearby. What's really nice about Longview Estates is, and especially this home that we're in right now, it's very convenient to the Ott Family YMCA, which has a couple of swimming pools, gym there. There's activities for all ages. It also is right next to a city park called Golub Park. And that park, there's a skate park, a ball field, a ramada, 4 newly resurfaced tennis courts, and a shaded playground.
And it's also pretty close to a K-8 school, isn't it? It's called Booth Thicket.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's walkable from here as well.
What are some other things that you like about this area?
Well, there's actually some really nice local restaurants that are nearby. More recent one is La Frida Mexican Grill, and it's become quite a popular destination.
I enjoyed it. It was
it was good.
One of our favorite breakfast restaurants is the Baja Cafe, and they have their original location not too far from here. And there's also the Horseshoe Grill, Penelope's Pizza, which is a really good wood-fired pizza place.
Right.
And can you tell us a little bit about Little Anthony's?
Oh, Little Anthony's. Yeah, my sister worked there in high school. But it's like a 50s style diner with, the ice cream and stuff. And it's also right next to Gaslight Theater, which always has like these cheesy, melodramatic theater shows, but they're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun to go to.
And it's also close to the Park Place Mall, which has a large movie theater, and that's about 1.5 miles west of us. And P.A.T. built several models in Longview Estates. Some of them were storybook ranch, more traditional ranch. This is more of a mid-century modern ranch home. And they won a Blue Ribbon Award from the Saturday Evening Post in 1960. So now for a little bit of history about the builder. P.A.T. stood for the perfect Arizona type home, and it was founded in 1954. The company built about 2,000 homes in Tucson's east side in the 1950s, and they built about 6,000 plus homes over its lifetime. It was started by 3 partners. Jack Mendelbaum was the president, Manny Finkelstein was the vice president, and Mel Ritter was the secretary. Mel was the son-in-law of Jack's, and he had married Jack's daughter, Arlene. The 3 men all moved their families to Tucson from New York City, and they settled in the Harold Bell Wright subdivision. And we had done a previous video, and we'll go ahead and copy a link somewhere around here if you'd like more information about that. Jack Mendelbaum had spent several winters in Tucson before he moved here full-time in 1952. He had planned on retiring after running a successful women's clothing business in New York City. This was called the Perfect American Type. His clothing company specialized in coats and women's suits for women that were 5'5", inches tall or under. They sold clothing to department stores throughout the nation. So when he moved to Tucson and started the building company, he had the perfect, get it, name in mind, P.A.T. He just had to swap out American for Arizona.
Good thing he didn't move to New Mexico.
Wouldn't have quite the same ring, would it?
That would have totally messed his whole name up.
Manny Finkelstein was also from New York City, where he had a career as an attorney and a mortgage financier. He was about 10 years younger than Jack, and he was the head of the financing portion of the business. In 1959, Manny commissioned Ralph Haver to design his family's own home up in the foothills. And
we just got to visit it, and probably some of the folks watching right now visited it too. It was on the Tucson Modernism home tour this year, and it was the Finkelstein residence. So if you got to see it, it was pretty fabulous.
It was designed by Ralph Haver, wasn't it?
It was, and Ralph Haver was the architect that did a lot of the designs for the homes that they built in the 1950s in Tucson as well. So,
and for those of you that don't know, Ralph Haver was an architect in the Phoenix area, and P.A.T. hired him to design many of their tract homes in the 50s, as Kim said. He designed a lot of really cool mid-century homes, and up in the Phoenix and Scottsdale area, there's places known as Haver Homes and Haver Hoods, and they're highly sought after. You want to tell us a little bit about the youngest?
Well, Mel Ritter was the youngest of the bunch. He was about 27 years younger than his father-in-law, Jack. And back in New York City, he was an advertising executive. He served in the Navy in World War II, and he studied at NYU, Yale, and he received a fine arts degree from the P.A.T. Institute. He married Arlene, like we mentioned, who was Jack's daughter. They had 2 children, Douglas and Donna. And there's actually 2 neighborhoods in Tucson named after his 2 kids.
And business was going really well for the trio. They boast that P.A.T. Homes was the top producer of home, or the top home builder from 1955 to 1958 in Tucson. But unfortunately, there were rough times ahead. In February of 1959, Jack dies at just 59 years old. Then, in August of 1960, Manny and Rita's 14-year-old son tragically dies. The company does get back on its feet in 1961 and starts building this neighborhood, Longview Estates. They get really creative with their advertising. After all, Mel had an advertising background.
So I was shocked when I found these old advertisements. It's just the craziest ad campaign I've ever seen anywhere. They actually hired a family to live in a P.A.T. Yorkshire model, this home, not this specific home, but a Yorkshire model home. And they opened the home to visitors while the family was living there.
So they could see how the home would function.
Right. So it was sort of like a human fishbowl.
And they advertised it as a living test.
I mean, could you? Okay. Well, anyway. It was a young family, a mom, a dad, and their 2 young children. One was 2 years old. One was
2 months old.
2 months old. I cannot even imagine. Like, first of all, like we have open houses nowadays. Could you imagine doing an open house with like a family still there? Like, that's just like mind blowing.
And it was 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they had lived in the home for 3 weeks.
3 weeks. From 10 o'clock in the morning till 8 p.m. every day.
So after the 3 weeks, the family went back to live in the university's Polo Village, which was a series of Quonset huts that were used as married student housing after World War II. Why is it called Polo Village, you might ask? Well, the Quonset huts were next to stables that were used prior to World War II when U of A had a polo team, and where the ROTC kept cavalry horses. All that was torn down in the 1960s and 1970s to make way for the University Medical Center.
P.A.T. Homes also used more traditional advertising methods, including the Yorkshire home in the 1961 Parade of Homes. The ad campaign was created by Herb Grafe, a graphic designer whose long career was recently featured in a spot by the Arizona Public Media.
He's now in his 90s, and we recently got to see him speak at Tucson's Modernism Week and also view a collection of his work. This was also billed as a Parada de Casas. This event featured 15 homes that were built by 12 different Tucson builders. You could visit each home and enjoy entertainment, including a banjo humorist, which I didn't know banjos were so funny. They also had a dance impersonationist, Zippo the Clown, and a merry-go-round. So the company, unfortunately, was not done with personal tragedies, and in January 1963, Manny dies at the young age of 53. This leaves Mel Ritter to pick up the pieces of the business, and he carries on along with Bill Mandelbaum, who is Jack's son. In the early 1960s, Ritter commissions his own home to be designed by Ambrose Swanson and Associates, and this wins a Western Home Award and was featured in an issue of 1963 Sunset magazine.
So in 1969, Mel Ritter marries Robin Oxman, and she's a daughter of another New Yorker. And if the Oxman name sounds familiar, it might be because you watched our other video about Windsor Park. Her father was J. Herbert Oxman, who was the builder of Windsor Park, which is a very cool mid-century modern neighborhood. And yet another footnote is that the architecture firm Ambrose Swanson and Associates also designed the homes in Windsor Park as well. Oxman was known for his creative advertising campaigns too, although none of them were as over the top as the fishbowl ad campaign.
He just claimed that he was revolting.
Yeah, he claimed he was revolting. He had photos taken of him supervising the building of adobe walls while wearing a suit, which, you know, like nobody wears a suit in Tucson, period, right? And he made the readers search for him in the desert as if he were an Arizona version of Where's Waldo. And he went on and on and on about the square footage of the windows in his homes.
In 1972, P.A.T. Homes is sold to Horizon Corporation, a bigger builder in Albuquerque and El Paso. Both Mel Ritter and Bill Mandelbaum continued to operate the company as a subsidiary of Horizon. And in the ensuing decades, they both continued to build in and around Tucson, and they separately founded a few different companies. In 1994, Ritter spearheaded the restoration of the J. Knox Corbett House, which was built in 1906 and is now part of the Tucson Museum of Art historic block downtown. Mel Ritter passed away in 2010 at the age of 84. Before we start our tour, let's introduce ourselves. We're Kim and Nick Labriola, and we work with Tierra Antigua Realty here in Tucson, and we run realtucson.com. We're a couple of old house nerds, and we are also licensed to sell real estate. We do specialize in historic and especially mid-century homes, but we're really able to help you with any kind of home in the Tucson area. So please give us a call.
You can contact us at hello@realtucson.com, and our contact information is also in the description below.
If you like our content, please like, share, and subscribe, and that way you can check out any future rabbit holes we might go down. Now, let's go ahead and take a tour. Welcome to our tour. As you can see, this home has a attractive elevation, kind of a mid-century modern ranch style, and it's nicely landscaped in mature landscaping and trees. It does have a one-car carport. In 1961, this outdoor space was called the Lanai, which created a nice courtyard. So the property has nice quality ceramic tile throughout, and it was well done. This owner has an eye towards detail, and he's done some really tasteful renovations here. There's a large sliding glass door with a bit of a view out towards the lanai. This was originally called the activity room with the P.A.T. plan. The owner custom built the cabinetry for this, and he was able to preserve a really cool working original oven in the turquoise color. And he took his time, and you can see where he matched the grain on the wood for the cabinets. These are really well done. This is kind of a nice feature. In the 50s up through about the mid 70s, oftentimes you would just have a washer, sometimes in the kitchen or on the back porch of the home. So this is a big utility room for the laundry, and could almost be used as a pantry or hobby space as well. In the kitchen, there's a lot of countertops for workspace, and it does have a slide-in oven with a range. There's a separate eating area, which could be a formal dining room, again with a big slider. There's a lot of light that comes into the home. And then you have the main living room of the home, And it featured this cool wall, which was one of the attractions early on when they originally marketed the home, and still adds a lot of cool character to the property. If you notice, there's no additions on the property. It's all original footprint, and it's really well designed. There's not too much hallway, but there's plenty of space to maneuver furniture if you're moving in. There's a full bath. The owner has tastefully remodeled these baths, but they're still in keeping with the era. There's a linen closet here and splits off into 2 separate bedrooms. The closet size for the era is really good. Sometimes in the 50s and 60s, the closets are kind of small, but both of these rooms feature larger closets, and there's a nice walk-in closet here in the primary bedroom. The windows are pretty neat because you can still have a good view, but it affords a little bit more privacy because they're a little higher up. And again, he did a nice job with the remodel on the main bathroom, and it's got a cool floating vanity. Here we have bedroom 3. And it's a good size, plenty of room for a bed and furniture. In the listing, there's several improvements that the owner's made, so there's a complete list of those in the attachment. And he did pour a larger patio space and built a larger covered patio. It's nicely landscaped, very clean. Again, there's mature trees. He replaced the fence with this metal fencing, which I think is really attractive. And it's just all very tastefully done. Large backyard space where kids could play, or you could entertain, have friends over. And there's another gate. Storage shed on the side, and a little bit of extra space between the homes where you have nice setbacks between the neighbors. So this concludes our tour. Thanks again for watching. We're Kim and Nick Labriola with RealTucson.com and Tierra Antigua Realty. If you have friends or family members that are into cool old houses, please contact us at hello@realtucson.com. And especially if you need help buying a historic or mid-century home, please give us a call. Thanks again for watching. Are we recording? I'm sure we are.
Yeah. Sorry, you make me paranoid.
Okay. A dance impersonation. I can't even say that.
Just to orientate yourself. Orientate?
Orient yourself.
Orient?
Just so you can get oriented.
In 1960. Oh, no.
Probably shouldn't include that one either. That's a mouthful.
I was not meant for this.